Imagine standing under the blinding lights of the world's biggest talent stage, armed with nothing but an acoustic guitar and the darkest, most painful memories of your childhood. In the highly manufactured world of reality television, contestants usually rely on explosive vocal gymnastics and chart-topping cover songs to win the hearts of the judges. But in 2019, a quiet teenager named Sophie Pecora decided to completely break those unwritten rules. She did not bring a massive production. She brought a brutally honest original song about the suffocating pain of middle school bullying. This is the incredible story of how one young outcast bravely turned her deepest psychological trauma into one of the most profoundly emotional and unforgettable performances in the history of America's Got Talent. The journey to that unforgettable television moment began in a place completely devoid of applause, glittering confetti, or massive cheering crowds. For Sophie Pecora, the daily reality of growing up and navigating the deeply treacherous social landscape of middle school was an incredibly isolating and traumatic experience. In the brutal, highly judgmental ecosystem of 7th grade, any perceived vulnerability or quietness is often aggressively targeted by peers. The deep feelings of isolation, severe bullying, and crippling self-doubt that she has publicly spoken about are not just vague, fleeting childhood memories. They were a heavy, suffocating weight that she was forced to carry every single day. While other teenagers were actively forming tight social circles and enjoying the carefree moments of their youth, she found herself completely trapped on the outside looking in, battling a profound sense of loneliness that is incredibly difficult for any young person to process. This period of her life was completely defined by a desperate, silent struggle to simply survive the school day without breaking down. The intense psychological pain of being relentlessly marginalized and feeling utterly invisible in a crowded hallway created a massive reservoir of raw, unresolved emotional trauma. She realized that the agonizing silence of her daily existence was slowly consuming her, and she desperately needed to find a safe, alternative way to project her voice into a world that actively refused to listen to her. When the crushing weight of that severe social isolation became absolutely unbearable, she desperately retreated into the only physical and mental sanctuary she had left. In the quiet, undisturbed safety of her bedroom, far away from the cruel whispers and the incredibly toxic environment of her middle school, she discovered the profound, life-saving power of creative expression. She did not turn to songwriting with the calculated, manufactured ambition of becoming a massively famous pop star or securing a lucrative record deal. She turned to her acoustic guitar because she fundamentally needed a psychological lifeline to keep from completely drowning in her own self-doubt. It was in this deeply intimate, profoundly lonely space that the incredibly powerful original song, 7th Grade, was actually born. She began to meticulously translate her daily agonizing experiences, the specific taunts, the heavy feelings of being entirely misunderstood, and the desperate yearning for genuine acceptance, directly into her lyrics. The songwriting process became a highly vital, deeply therapeutic mechanism for survival, allowing her to safely externalize the toxic venom that was constantly being injected into her by her peers. Every single chord she played and every single brutally honest word she wrote onto her notepad was a deliberate, courageous act of emotional defiance against the people who constantly tried to make her feel completely worthless. By explicitly choosing to confront her trauma through art rather than aggressively suppressing it, she was quietly forging an unbreakable artistic identity. The traditional, highly orchestrated formula of reality television talent competitions is ruthlessly designed to favor the familiar, the explosive, and the easily digestible. When contestants finally secure a highly coveted audition slot on a massive show like America's Got Talent, the overwhelming industry pressure dictates that they should perform a universally recognized, chart-topping hit song. The strategic goal is usually to showcase impressive vocal acrobatics and instantly win over the massive audience through pure, nostalgic entertainment. However, When Sophie Pecora officially walked onto that incredibly intimidating stage in 2019, she was not carrying a famous name, a massive corporate backing, or a highly polished, universally familiar pop anthem. In a massive, completely unprecedented display of artistic integrity and sheer bravery, she made the highly dangerous decision to completely reject the standard reality television playbook. Instead of hiding behind the safe, protective shield of a well-known cover song, she explicitly chose to perform Seventh Grade. She fully understood that bringing such a deeply personal, intensely vulnerable original song about the dark realities of bullying was a massive, incredibly risky gamble on a stage entirely dedicated to lighthearted family entertainment. Her decision immediately and sharply set her apart from the thousands of other contestants who had desperately chased viral fame through heavy imitation. She was not there to simply entertain the masses. She was there to fiercely demand that they actively listen to the uncomfortable, bleeding truth of her lived experience. The actual physical atmosphere in the massive auditorium on the day of her audition was incredibly thick with heavy anticipation and absolute nerve-wracking tension. Stepping out into the blinding, multi-million-dollar lighting rigs of the America's Got Talent stage is an absolutely terrifying, sensory-overloading experience for even the most seasoned, highly trained adult professionals. For a young, deeply introverted teenager who had spent the majority of her recent life desperately trying to avoid the cruel, judgmental eyes of her peers, standing in front of thousands of expectant audience members and 4 incredibly powerful celebrity judges was a monumental psychological hurdle. The absolute contrast between the quiet, isolated safety of her childhood bedroom, where the song was originally written, and the massive, highly manufactured corporate spectacle of global television could not have been more extreme. As she stood alone on the center mark, tightly clutching her acoustic guitar, the entire world was watching her every single microscopic movement. Millions of viewers completely witnessed the raw, unfiltered physical manifestation of her severe anxiety, but they also witnessed an entirely undeniable, fiercely unyielding inner strength. She was directly confronting her ultimate fear of public judgment on the largest, most intimidating platform imaginable. In those incredibly tense, completely silent seconds right before she finally leaned into the microphone to sing the very first note, she was mentally preparing to completely expose her deepest, darkest scars to the entire universe. The absolute second she began to perform, the entire highly chaotic energy of the massive auditorium completely and instantly evaporated, rapidly replaced by a stunning, profoundly heavy silence. What truly made this specific performance so incredibly memorable and deeply impactful was not just the unique, rhythmic tone of her singing voice. It was the absolute, crushing vulnerability securely hidden behind every single spoken word lyric. She did not attempt to mask her emotional pain with heavy musical production or a highly choreographed, distracting stage routine. She simply stood completely still and delivered a brutally honest, devastatingly literal confession about the agonizing reality of being a social outcast. The absolute honesty embedded deep within her lyrics aggressively pierced through the highly manufactured, heavily sanitized atmosphere that usually heavily defines commercial reality television. She sang about the exact, terrifying feelings of being constantly judged, the desperate desire to simply fit in, and the heavy, exhausting daily toll of severe emotional bullying. Her delivery was so incredibly raw and completely unfiltered that it felt less like a traditional musical audition and far more like a desperate, highly urgent plea for radical human empathy. By completely refusing to sugarcoat or artificially romanticize her deeply painful childhood experiences, she effectively transformed a massive television studio into a highly intimate, profoundly safe space for absolute, uncompromising emotional truth. The immediate, highly emotional reaction to her incredibly raw performance was absolutely overwhelming, completely transcending the standard, superficial applause of a typical television audience. Her deeply personal words instantly and powerfully resonated with both the notoriously cynical celebrity judges and the millions of ordinary viewers watching closely from the quiet safety of their living rooms at home. The profound, undeniable magic of that specific audition was that, as she bravely sang about her own deeply specific, highly isolating pain, an absolute massive wave of people instantly saw their own deeply hidden childhood struggles perfectly reflected back at them. The song actively acted as a massive psychological mirror, successfully validating the silent, heavy trauma of countless individuals who had also endured the brutal, agonizing experience of being relentlessly bullied or feeling completely invisible during their highly vulnerable teenage years. She brilliantly managed to take a deeply isolated, highly specific personal tragedy and organically transform it into a massive, universally understood conversation about the vital importance of radical acceptance, immense psychological resilience, and finding absolute, undeniable strength through the power of raw creativity. In a heavily curated media landscape that constantly attempts to aggressively sell the illusion of absolute perfection, her courageous willingness to openly bleed on a global stage provided a massive, incredibly necessary collective catharsis for an entire generation of misunderstood outcasts. In the highly competitive, fiercely cutthroat world of reality television, the ultimate, widely accepted measure of success is exclusively defined by securing the final grand prize and walking away as the officially crowned champion. However, although Sophie Pecora did not ultimately go on to win that specific season of America's Got Talent, that single, incredibly powerful audition instantly became the absolute defining, foundational moment of her entire professional career. The massive television network had successfully extracted the highly emotional, viral moment they desperately needed, and the unpredictable voting public eventually shifted their fleeting attention elsewhere. But the deep, profound impact she had successfully made on the global audience was entirely permanent and absolutely undeniable. She fundamentally proved that you do not actually need to officially win a highly manipulated corporate talent show to completely win the fiercely loyal hearts of millions of people. Her sudden, highly unceremonious elimination from the mainstream competition did not destroy her massive momentum. It completely liberated her from the highly restrictive, heavily manufactured constraints of the reality television machine. She walked entirely away from that massive, glittering stage, having successfully achieved something infinitely more valuable than a generic television trophy. She had brilliantly secured a massive, deeply dedicated global platform entirely on her own authentic terms, completely bypassing the traditional, highly gate-kept roots of commercial pop music success. Following her massive, highly emotional television exposure, she was immediately presented with the incredibly difficult challenge of navigating the highly complex, often incredibly predatory waters of the modern music industry. Instead of desperately attempting to heavily commercialize her viral fame, or allowing manipulative corporate executives to completely sanitize her deeply authentic, raw acoustic sound, she made the brilliant, highly strategic decision to fiercely protect her unique artistic integrity. She completely fully embraced the incredibly demanding, highly uncertain path of the entirely independent artist. She continued aggressively writing and consistently releasing her own original music, firmly utilizing her deeply personal songwriting as the primary, unfiltered way to intimately connect with the massive legion of listeners who had experienced similar, deeply painful challenges in their own lives. Without the massive, highly restrictive financial backing of a major corporate record label dictating her every single artistic move, she successfully built a completely self-sustaining, highly lucrative digital empire. Her rapidly growing, fiercely dedicated audience has passionately followed her incredible journey, deeply drawn not only to the unique, rhythmic style of her music, but also to the absolute, uncompromising authenticity securely layered entirely behind it. She masterfully transformed her quiet bedroom sanctuary into a highly functioning, globally recognized independent headquarters, proving that true artistry cannot be contained by corporate greed. As the years have rapidly passed since that highly emotional, globally broadcasted television debut, the incredibly chaotic, fast-paced landscape of internet culture has completely consumed and immediately forgotten countless other viral reality television stars. Yet completely defying all standard industry logic, her original performance of 7th Grade remains one of the absolute most deeply cherished, highly viewed performances that dedicated fans continue to aggressively revisit time and time again. The lasting, undeniable longevity of this specific video is a stunning, massive testament to the profound psychological weight of her raw, completely unfiltered message. It actively continues to constantly circulate across various massive social media platforms, organically discovering brand new generations of young, highly vulnerable teenagers who are currently desperately fighting the exact same agonizing, silent battles she bravely sang about. The audition completely transcends the highly disposable, completely fleeting nature of standard viral entertainment, because it represents a rare, incredibly pure moment of absolute, unscripted human vulnerability, captured entirely on live television. The millions of views steadily accumulating on that original video are not merely passive digital metrics. They are actual, deeply emotional human beings desperately seeking the profound comfort and vital validation that her deeply honest, incredibly brave lyrical confession continues to universally provide to the misunderstood outcasts of the world. Looking back at the incredible, highly unprecedented trajectory of her artistic evolution, the true, deeply inspiring story of Sophie Pecora serves as a massive, completely undeniable reminder to the entire global entertainment industry. It aggressively proves that some of the absolute most powerful, culturally defining moments to ever take place on the glittering America's Got Talent stage do not actually come from incredibly elaborate, multi-million-dollar stage productions, heavily auto-tuned pop anthems, or completely flawless, highly robotic vocal gymnastics. They come directly from incredibly brave, highly vulnerable people who are absolutely willing to stand completely exposed and tell their real, brutally honest stories to the world. For this incredibly quiet, deeply sensitive teenager, that immense, unwavering willingness to be absolutely honest completely transformed one deeply personal, highly agonizing diary entry into a massive, unforgettable generational performance that actively continues to deeply resonate with global audiences today. She brilliantly managed to completely flip the script on her darkest, most agonizing childhood trauma, organically turning the immense, crippling pain of severe social isolation into an absolute, undeniable superpower of radical human connection. Her journey is the ultimate, highly triumphant victory for every single misunderstood misfit, beautifully proving that your deepest, darkest scars can eventually become the exact magnificent foundation upon which you build your entire empire.